Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss about Aristotle, which is part of Western political thought. This lecture is beneficial for anybody preparing for CUET PG entrance and UGC NET exam of political science. So let's begin. First let's discuss the life and time of Aristotle. Aristotle was born in 384 BC in a city called Stagira in Greece. He came to Athens to study at Plato's academy and he studied there for 20 years. Later, he went on to tutor Alexander the Great. He has written on a variety of subjects such as physics, biology, politics, metaphysics, ethics, etc. He founded his own academy called the Lyceum. He has been given various titles such as Father of Political Science, Father of Logic, Founder of Empirical Philosophy, the Master of Them That Know, the First Scientist, etc. etc. We will see why he was called all these names or all these titles in the coming slides. His major works are Nicomachean Ethics, Politics, Rhetoric, On the Soul, Poetics, Organon, etc. This lecture is based on his teachings from Nicomachean Ethics and Politics. One point that you have to note is that most of Aristotle's works are in the form of lecture notes written by his students. As I said, now let's see why he was called as the first scientist. Here it is written observation over idealism. So, unlike his teacher Plato, who was an idealist, Aristotle was a realist. What is idealism? Idealism basically says that reality is based on ideas and not on material concepts. So, we know that Plato gave his theory of forms, his theory of ideal state, etc., right? So, where did he start from? He started from a perfect idea of a perfect utopia or an idea of a transcendental reality where perfect versions of everything exist. And for Plato, that was the reality. Everything that exists in our world was just shadow or copy for Plato. So for idealists, only idea is real. Understood? If you want to learn more about Plato, please watch my previous lecture on Plato, which I have uploaded in my channel. Plato uses deductive method and Aristotle uses inductive method. What is deductive method and inductive method? Deductive method is top-down approach and inductive method is bottom-up approach. Deductive method draws logical conclusions from premises assumed to be true. It moves from general principle to specific conclusions. Whereas in inductive reasoning, we infer general principles from specific observations or examples and moves from specific observations to general principles. For example, Plato starts with abstract ideas like what is justice, what is good, what is ideal state, and then he designs the state based on these ideas. He does not go and study existing governments or starts collecting data or anything like that. Instead, he begins with the idea of things like idea of justice, and from that he constructs the whole political system. Whereas Aristotle, instead of asking what is the ideal state like Plato, he asks what type of governments actually exists, and he analyzes why these governments are stable or why some of these governments are collapsing, and he studies based on real life examples. For example, see the data approach here. To understand politics, Aristotle did not imagine a utopia like Plato. He analyzed 158 actual constitutions to find out the best practicable state. So he was the first person to observe real life examples of governments and compare and contrast constitutions to find the solution for collapsing or anarchy inside a state and to find the best practicable state. This is the reason why he is called as the first scientist. Understood? I hope you understood why Aristotle is called as the first scientist. Now let's discuss Aristotle's theory of forms and causes. We know that Plato said that forms exist separately in a different reality, in a transcendental reality. Aristotle completely rejected Plato's theory of forms. Instead, he said that everything is a combination of matter and form. So what is matter? Matter means what something is made of, and form is what makes it what it is, means its essence. And Aristotle said that form is inside the object. It is not in a separate realm or in a separate abstract world. It is a real thing which exists inside of the object itself. So for this, Aristotle gave the theory of causes. So there are 4 causes because of which a thing exists. To fully explain something, we must ask 4 questions. So these 4 causes are the causes why a thing exists: the material cause, the formal cause, the efficient cause, and the final cause. The material cause means what is a thing made of. For example, see the statue here. This statue is made of the metal bronze. So the material cause of this thing is the metal bronze. The formal cause is what is its essence. What makes this statue what it is? It is the design of the statue, the shape of the statue. That is what makes this statue the statue. So that is the formal cause or the essence. The efficient cause is who made it. Obviously, a sculptor who has created this statue out of his creativity. And the final cause is what is the purpose of this statue. Maybe this statue is made for decoration, maybe for worship. So what its purpose is the final cause of this thing. Another important thing to note that the final cause is the most important cause for Aristotle, because Aristotle's philosophy is teleological, means it's goal oriented, it's purpose oriented. He says that nature is not random and everything moves towards fulfilling its purpose. So this idea of purpose or final cause is an important thing in all of Aristotle's philosophy, not just here but overall in Aristotle's philosophy. Telos or teleology, purpose, is very, very important. So I hope you understood the theory of forms and causes. Now let's see the politics of Aristotle. So first point, politics is the extension of ethics for Aristotle. What does this mean? For Aristotle, ethics deals with how to lead the best life. This is what ethics is for Aristotle, and politics is an extension of this ethics. So politics also deals with how to lead the best life, but for human beings, right? And as I said in the previous slide, that Aristotle's philosophy is teleological, right? It deals with what is the purpose of someone's or something's existence. So in this context also, Aristotle asks, what is the purpose of a human being? So the purpose of a human being is to be rational, according to Aristotle. And to fulfill this purpose, human being needs the state. So see how ethics and politics is getting connected. So ethics deals with how to lead the best life. So to lead the best life, Human beings will have to fulfill their purpose. And what is the purpose? To be rational. How to be rational? Live in the state. So when you live in the state, what happens? You have to be political. You have to participate in the politics. And that is why he says man is a political animal. Human beings have to live in state, have to practice politics so that they can achieve their purpose of becoming rational, and that is what separates them from other animals. Other animals also live in families, like other animals also have communities. Bees also have communities, lions also have communities. But what makes human beings different from them? Human beings are concerned with how to lead the best life. Other animals are not concerned about that. So, human beings, because they are concerned about leading the best life, because they have a purpose, those purpose is fulfilled only when a human being lives inside a state. Understood? Hence, living in a state and participating in the politics is the only thing that makes human being different from animals. That is why he says man is a political animal. Human beings cannot live in isolation. He has to form family, and that family becomes village, and that village becomes state. Aristotle says that state is an association of associations, means state is an association of family and villages. Later he gives another idea of state, another idea of citizenship, and all. We will come to that later. But in his book 1 of politics is the book, it's his book, seminal work. In book 1 of politics, Aristotle says that state is an association of association, and human beings have to live in this state to fulfill their life and to lead the best life. Understood? That is what he means by politics is an extension of ethics and man is a political animal. Understood? Now let's discuss Aristotle's theory of the state. The state is also called as the polis. So first let's see the natural growth theory. Aristotle says that the state is a natural organization that grew gradually out of families and villages. It is a community of citizens, also known as city-state or the polis. Here, Aristotle is giving the historical evolution of the state. Human beings come together to form family, and that family forms villages, and that village later becomes the polis. So this is the historical evolution of state. State is the last stage of evolution of social interactions. Understood? Understood this natural growth theory? Now there is another theory called the organic state theory. So he says that like a human organism, the state is a whole and individuals are part with no importance if separated from the body. And here he says that the polis is prior to individual life. Here he says the state comes first before human beings. Here he has said that the state is an association of associations, that the state gradually forms out of families and villages, and here he says that the state comes before the individual life. Right. So these two things, it seems contradictory. So why is it so? I will explain. The first theory, it is based on historical evolution. Okay. Family becomes village, village becomes polis. But the second sentence, or the second theory, polis prior to individual life, that is based on logical evolution. So how can you say something is prior to something logically? When you say something is prior to something logically, do not think of it in the historical sense. It is a logical statement. This is what logical statement means. Understood? Polis prior to individual life is in the logical sense, because for the existence of human beings, polis is an absolute necessity for Aristotle. Understood? That is what polis prior to individual life means, and these are not contradictory statements. Understood? Because one is explained historically and another is explained logically. That is the difference. Now, self-sufficiency. Unlike the family or village, the state is a self-sufficing institution necessary for the good life, and for Aristotle, the state is much more important than the family and the village. because it fulfills the ethical needs of the human being. The family does not fulfill the ethical needs, it fulfills only the physical and security needs. Now let's discuss the classification of governments given by Aristotle. Aristotle classified governments based on who rules and in whose interests. So based on this, he gave 6 types of government: monarchy, tyranny, aristocracy, oligarchy, polity and democracy. So monarchy, what is monarchy? Monarchy is the rule by one for the common interest or for the common good. So when a king is ruling and he is a nice king and he is ruling for the good of his subjects, that is monarchy. Then imagine his son becomes a monarch, but he is not a good king. All he is interested is doing war for his own interest, or buying so much gold, traveling to so many places using people's money. So he is not doing anything for common interest or for the common good. He is doing things for his self-interest. So that is the perverted form of monarchy, that is tyranny. Understood? Now the next form of government is aristocracy. What is aristocracy? It is the rule by few for the common interest or common good. And the perverted form of this is oligarchy. Just as the bad king started doing things for his self-interest, there can be bad aristocrats also who would do things for their self-interest. So that perverted form of aristocracy is oligarchy. Similarly, polity is the rule by many for the common interest or common good, and the perverted form, which is democracy. Understood? And here is the cycle. The cycle, Aristotle believed that the governments move in a cycle. For example, monarchy becomes tyranny, tyranny becomes aristocracy, that becomes oligarchy, that becomes polity, that becomes democracy, and then again it becomes monarchy. So he believed that governments come and go in this cycle. Understood? That is the classification of governments. Now let's see Aristotle's theory of revolution. So revolution is any change in the form of government or the structure of the state, whether violent or non-violent. So that cycle happens because of revolution, this cycle. So these are the general causes he gives by which revolution happens: injustice and ill will by those in power, unequal distribution of offices and honors, misuse of authority and corruption, neglecting minor affairs that grow into explosive issues. And how to prevent revolution? Gain the confidence of the people, select officials based on merit, not favoritism, maintain strict checks on the exercise of authority, avoid sudden promotions to political posts, education, educate the people in the spirit of the constitution, and this is the major step, giving education to the people. Understood the theory of revolution? It's very simple, nothing much to explain here. Now let's discuss one of the most important theories of Aristotle, his theory of justice. Aristotle discusses justice mainly in book 5 of the Nicomachean Ethics and also in his Politics, that is also another book of his. For him, justice is both a moral virtue and a principle of social order. Okay. So Aristotle's idea of justice is more institutional and legal framework based when compared with Plato's idea of justice, which was completely morality and ethics based, and Plato's idea of justice was based on human nature and it was much more radical, whereas Aristotle's theory of justice is much more conservative because he is concerned with creating a stable system or a stable government. He wanted to rectify the issues of governments actually existing, and that is why he has given a much more conservative view. So conservative in the sense his theory of justice aligns with the traditional theories of justice which was already existing. Unlike Plato, who gave a completely different, completely radical theory of justice, and he negated all the existing theories of justice which was existing in his time. That is why Plato's theory of justice is radical and Aristotle's theory of justice is more conservative. Understood? So, for Aristotle, justice is a complete virtue, and justice is the highest moral virtue because it concerns our relation with others. So for Aristotle, a just person practices all virtues such as courage, temperance, honesty towards others. So justice is the complete virtue in relation to another. This is the ethical sense of justice for Aristotle. Now we will come to the justice in the political sense. That is where his idea of universal justice and particular justice comes, and that is why here types of justice is divided into two. This is his idea of justice in the political sense. Now let's see the types of justice in the political sense: universal justice and particular justice. The particular justice is further divided into two: distributive justice and corrective or rectificatory justice. First, let's see universal justice. Universal justice is nothing but general justice. It basically means obeying the law, acting virtuously in social life, and it is equivalent to being a good citizen. That is universal justice. Next comes particular justice. This form of justice is concerned with specific acts of fairness and unfairness between individuals. Understood? It is divided into two: distributive justice and corrective justice. So let's see distributive justice and corrective justice in detail, then you will understand what particular justice means. Distributive justice is concerned with the distribution of wealth, honors and offices. Basically, who gets what and how much. Understood? And this is based on the concept of proportional equality. Proportional equality means equals should be treated equally and unequals should be treated unequally in proportion to their merit. For example, you study more in an exam. Your friend studies less in an exam. So, according to Aristotle, because you have studied more, you are supposed to get more marks. Your friend, since he has studied less, he is not supposed to get more marks. So, if he gets more marks than you, that is not justice according to Aristotle. I mean, that is not what justice is to Aristotle, but that is an example. Basically, who has more merit, they are supposed to have more wealth, have more honors and have more offices. Now, what is this merit? Merit what it is? So, right now I said if you study more, you should get more marks. That is in our world. In Aristotle's world, what merit is virtues. If you have virtues, you should get more wealth and more honors. And he says this is different in different kinds of polities. If you are living in a, for example, aristocracy, their merit might be something else, right? If you are living in an oligarchy, their merit is something else. If you are living in a democracy, their merit may be something else. For example, in an oligarchy, maybe if you have more wealth, you might have more merit. In that kind of a state where the merit is wealth, and if you have more of that merit, you will get more distributive justice. But in Aristotle's city state, what it means to have merit, more merit, is having more virtues. Understood? That is what he says. Unequals should be treated unequally in proportion to their merit. Example, a more capable citizen may deserve higher political office. Now, who is a more capable citizen? That all we will see in his theory of citizenship. He defines who all can be a citizen, what all things qualifies you to become a citizen. So, all that thing. So, that is what he means by merit. If you have more merit, you will get more distributive justice. Now, let's come to the concept of corrective justice. Corrective justice basically applies in transactions between individuals, such as transactions such as contract, theft or injury. It focuses on restoring equality, and courts correct imbalances through compensation or punishment. Suppose somebody stole 5,000 rupees from you. So that is an injustice which happened to you. So how will the court correct this imbalance? Because somebody took 5,000 from you. Now that person has 5,000 rupees which was supposed to be yours. Now it's an imbalance. Now the court will correct this imbalance through taking that money back from that person and giving it to you, and maybe giving them some punishment. Now that imbalance is rectified. Now it's equalized, and this is corrective justice. So this is the concept of arithmetic equality, because it is just based on numbers, right? Somebody took 5 units from you. So what should be done? Subtract that 5 units from that person and add that to you. So this is basic arithmetic equality kind of concept in corrective justice. Whereas in distributive justice, it was the concept of proportional equality, which was grounded in reason and social roles. Understood? So this is the idea of justice for Aristotle, political justice I mean, distributive justice and corrective justice. Distributive justice based on proportional equality, and corrective justice based on arithmetic equality. Understood? Now let's discuss Aristotle's theory of citizenship. Aristotle gives the definition of a citizen as one who participates in the administration of justice and in the deliberative assembly. In his book 3 of Politics, he gives this definition. In simple words, a citizen is someone who takes part in lawmaking, who participates in public decision making, and who holds public office. Not just someone who lives in a state. Understood? For Aristotle, residence doesn't qualify you for being a citizen. Paying taxes doesn't qualify you for being a citizen. Even being born there doesn't qualify you for being a citizen. Only one thing qualifies you for being a citizen or becoming a citizen, that is active political participation. Why? Because the state or the polis exists for living a good life. We said right in the previous slide, man is a political animal. And to have a good life, man must live in the state and participate in the politics. Only if you do that, only if you participate in public affairs, then you truly belong to it. Understood? And in his time, he believed that women, slaves, foreigners and manual laborers are not fit to become citizens because they lacked intellectual maturity required for politics. Just saying this reason, he restricted citizenship for these classes of people. Understood? He believed that these people lacked the leisure to develop virtue. So his citizenship was very restrictive and very exclusive. Understood? He also says that the definition of citizen changes depending on the form of government. In a democracy, many can be citizens. In an oligarchy, only wealthy people are citizens. Understood? So citizenship is linked to political structure. So the crux of Aristotle's theory of citizenship is that you need to have heredity, means you need to be born there, plus you need to have property, plus you need to be an active participant in ruling, and you have to be an active participant in being ruled. This is the crux of Aristotle's theory of citizenship. Now let's briefly see his idea on slavery, family and private property. So for Aristotle, slavery is natural and necessary. He believed that slavery was essential for the household and the state, and a slave is a possession meant for action. He argued that some people are naturally wanting reason and are born to be ruled. He says that slavery provides leisure for citizens to devote themselves to public affairs. Now let's see his thoughts about family and private property. Family, according to Aristotle, is a natural association and the primary school of social virtue, where children learn cooperation and sacrifice. And interestingly, Aristotle supported the private property against Plato's communism of wives and property. He says that property provides a psychological satisfaction, encourages civic responsibility, and is a source of pleasure. So that is his idea of family and private property. Now we have studied both Plato and Aristotle. In the next slide, let us try to make a basic comparison between the major ideas of Plato and Aristotle. So in the given table, I have written the concepts on the left hand side, and then we will compare it with Plato and Aristotle on the right hand side. So first concept, philosophical temperament. Plato was an ideal thinker who was an imaginative propounder of a new philosophy. What does this mean? So Plato advocated for fundamental change in society, right? He gave his idea of philosopher king, communism of wives and property. He wanted philosophers to rule. He rejected democracy for Athens. All these were extremely shocking and radical at that time. Understood? But Aristotle was a moderate and conservative thinker who acted as a systemizer of existing knowledge, right? Aristotle did not have any radical concepts of anything. He worked on the existing theories or the traditional theories which were already existing, and he made his theories based on that only. Understood? Second, the method of reasoning. Use the deductive method proceeding from universal ideal notions to the particular. As I have explained, top-down approach, that is what is used by Plato, and Aristotle uses bottom-up approach or the inductive method. Basis of knowledge relied on a priori or speculative methods starting with abstract fundamentals. As I explained, Plato is an idealist and he assumes these ideas to be true and real, and that is where he starts. He starts with these abstract fundamentals and then he creates the theory, his theory of justice, his theory of ideal state. All he starts from his idea of justice which he assumes to be true. Understood? That is what a priori means. Whereas Aristotle, he relied on observation, empiricism and comparison. Example, he studied actual existing 158 constitutions of different governments which exist in the world. So that is what the difference is. The basis of knowledge, that is the difference. Now perception of reality. Believe reality resides in the ideal, whereas Aristotle believed reality resides in the concrete manifestation or of a thing or object. These things we have discussed it all. Now in relationship of politics and ethics, Plato subordinated politics to ethics, focusing on abstract notions of justice and virtue. We have studied in the previous lecture that Plato's concept of justice, Plato's concept of virtue, all these were based on morality. For him, politics is secondary. For him, ethics and morality comes first. That is important. Human nature, he explains based on the concept of ethics. Justice, he explains based on the nature of ethics and virtue, right? So that is Plato. Aristotle prioritized politics. He made the first attempt to separate it from ethics through scientific methods. As I said previously, for him, politics is an extension of ethics. Understood? I have explained it in the previous slides where I explained Aristotle's politics. The origin of state. Plato viewed the state as a structured or manufactured entity based on assumed principles like communism, etc. Basically, Plato created a utopic manufactured entity where you have to where you have to use strict rules, strict class division, strict principles like communism, etc. to manufacture that ideal state. Whereas Aristotle viewed the state as a natural organization that grows organically like a tree, like how a tree grows from a seed. The polity or the state grows from family and villages. Justice. Plato's concept of justice, he defines it as a performance of allotted duties, functional specialization. Philosophers rule, soldiers fight, peasants serve, right? But for Aristotle, it is divided into complete justice, conformity to law, particular justice, proportional distribution, arithmetic equality and proportionate equality. like he gives his ethical concept of justice and political concept also of justice. Private property and family. Plato proposed communism of property and wives for the guardian class to ensure total devotion to the state. They were not allowed to have property or family, but Aristotle supported private property and family. Concept of citizenship में he included producing class also in the citizenship, making his concept more democratic, whereas Aristotle excluded the laboring class and women and slaves and viewed them as an instrumental to a leisured class of citizens or men. Okay friends, that's all for today. Please go through this table and the previous slides which I have discussed on your own, and if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask in the comment section, and if you want, I can make a separate video solving your doubts. By that time, take care. The next lecture will be coming soon and it is on Machiavelli. So please take care, please study, take care, bye, thank you.